There's all our ladies. Now, the House of Representatives has just passed the Cybersecurity Enhancement Act, which will allow any government official to retrieve your personal information from your ISP. Pretty scary. Here to explain the ins and outs of this new bill and tell us how we can fight. It's Cory Doctorow from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. You're a writer, a technologist, and a frequent guest. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, thank you. It's an honor to be here on Ladies' Night.
Well, thank you. Well, you're one of my, we talked about having just female guests, but I wanted to have guests that I really like, and I love what you do at the EFF, and so I'm glad you're here.
Cool.
Give us a quick and dirty explanation.
So, Homeland Security Act is a bill that passed the House, and it's going through the Senate now. Cybersecurity Enhancement Act is a bill that passed the House back in the summer. And the Senate sat on it. That never went anywhere. And now they're folding it into the Homeland Security Act. And the Homeland Security Act is the thing that's going to happen before the Senate dissolves. There's really not a lot of question as to whether or not it's going to pass. And the real question is whether the Cybersecurity Enhancement Act stuff is going to make it in. So the problem with CSEA is that it changes the whole underpinning of privacy on the Internet. So 10 years ago, EFF was essentially formed to fight the Steve Jackson case, which was, at its crux, a case about whether or not privacy in the real world mapped onto privacy in the Internet.
And we won that.
And we won that one.
Yes.
What we won was the principle that if someone from law enforcement or government wants to read your email or get into your phone or do any of the stuff that they would do in the real world, they need to go to a judge and get a warrant, right? Because judges are the only people who should be in charge of figuring out whether or not it's okay for a cop to invade your privacy, right? Fair enough. So 10 years we've enjoyed a lot of privacy and a lot of integrity for a decade on the Internet because of this case. But here comes the CSEA, and what the CSEA says is that instead of a judge deciding whether or not someone's story is good enough to turn over your personal information, it's anyone who runs an ISP. So you're putting ISPs in charge of figuring it out. ISPs aren't qualified to do this, and of course they're going to err on the side of caution. Now, it gets scarier, though, because the worst part is that instead of a cop going to the person who's standing in for a judge, i.e. the ISP, and saying, I'd like your personal information extracted from it, I'd like to read all your email and so on. It's anyone who works for any level of government, local, state, or federal.
Wow.
Your high school principal, your high school principal can go to your ISP and they can say, I think, Timmy's up to some very naughty things, and I would like to read all of his personal email, not his school email, but his personal email, in the service of, figuring out whether or not something bad is happening. Right? Imagine if your high school principal could go to the post office and tell the postmaster, I think little Timmy is up to some very naughty things through the mails. I would like to read all of his mail before it goes to his house on the off chance that I'm right. So this is really scary stuff. It used to be under the USA Patriot Act, which extended a lot of this stuff. What it said was you had to have some kind of imminent danger. So if you were a cop, you could go to an ISP without getting a warrant, but you could say, look, we believe that someone's about to do something really bad, and we need to read someone's email. And they would say, okay, you can do it. Now, I'm a little ambivalent about that, but this completely changes the standard because there doesn't need to be any immediate danger anymore. All there needs to be is someone who thinks that your privacy should be invaded. Someone who thinks that they should be able to read over your shoulder.
That's a real loss in privacy, the things that we fought for in the past. Wow.
Well, it's a real loss in the things that the founding fathers of the United States of America fought for during the American Revolution, too.
Wow. So this is crazy. So they're evaluating complaints. Why doesn't the government why is the government doing this? Who's lobbying for this?
The people who are lobbying for this are the people who are interested in cynically manipulating terrible tragedies in the service of rolling back civil liberties. At the end of the day, it's people who see tragedy and view it as an opportunity to stick a lever in your privacy and your freedom and pry it away. And so it's all the same interests who fought for USA Patriot Act. It's all the same interests who will fight for future abridgments of your privacy.
Wow. So this is going before the Senate tomorrow.
Well, in the near future.
Hard
to say when the Senate will actually move on.
So they're trying to ride this under the Homeland Security Act.
That's right.
And then, which I heard is going to the Senate. It's supposed to go to the Senate tomorrow.
It's gone to the Senate, and we're not hill rats. We don't hang out in D.C. We're not privy to what's going on in the Senate.
Geeks.
But we're geeks, right? But the hill rats we know, they tell us that this will likely pass in the Senate.
Because that's all over the news. Because they're trying to slip all kinds of things in there, like drug laws and all kinds of things.
It's like that Simpsons episode where where they, and I'd like to add a $40 million rider for the perverted arts, just at the last minute to help bail out Springfield.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, it's everyone's there, and they're all shoveling their favorite acces, and they're grinding them up against the Homeland Security Act and trying to get them all passed, because the Homeland Security Act will pass more or less by hook or by crook.
So what can we do to stop it?
Same thing as last time.
Okay.
EFF Action Center, action.eff.org. We have this action center. You go there, you give it your zip code, and we will figure out who your lawmakers are.
Okay.
And we've got a little form letter that we already built that has all of the information about this. Now you can modify that. In fact, we're happy even if people go and they change this to say we support CSEA, and we want you to do it. All we want is to provide a tool to allow people to talk to their lawmakers directly. So you go to this.
So I can edit out if I don't like this because that's not the wording I like.
That's
I can
right.
just delete that.
You add your contact info and you hit submit, and it goes straight to your lawmaker like that. It doesn't get stopped in the House mail room and get irradiated for 3 days or anything. It's the miracle of electrical mail on the global interweb. It just goes there instantaneously.
So I can send an email, or I can send a fax, or I can actually print it and send it myself.
That's right.
If I want. Very cool.
Although we
stuff.
would encourage you to send it by a more speedy method than print.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much, Corey.
Thank
and
you.
of course, EFF is who you work for, but Boing Boing is your weblog.
Boingboing.net. Yeah.
Love it. You have some really wonderful, it's a gallery of wonderful things on the internet,
Yeah.
right? Well, excellent. For detailed explanation of the Cybersecurity Enhancement Act and links to letters of support, we have it all at thescreensavers.com.